of course, there are other places like the Brampton Library where I visit from time to time, and I've always brought my kids. Those, that's a great place too. City Hall, I'm always in there. And Mayor Susan Fennell is a very good friend, and she's very supportive of our community. I'm always in there talking to her, or speaking to the councillors, or attending meetings at the Brampton City Council. And so, these are some of the places in Brampton that I love visiting. I love going to. Brampton has changed a lot. As I said, when I came here in '74, there were about 70,000 people. I believe now we should be close to 350,000 people in Brampton. So that's a five-fold increase in population. So that calls for enormous change. The roads are a little more congested, unfortunately, but there's a plus side to it. There are easier ways to get out of Brampton if you do in fact want to go down to Toronto. The 410 is there, and I believe that they're expanding on it. All of the other roads have been widened, so access to and from Brampton is a lot easier. And even now with Sandalwood opening, that is a tremendous thing, because when I came at first, Beauvais was all country, so we didn't have, Beauvais did not exist. And then the whole area now has opened up. So I think it's all positive. There are a lot more malls, a lot more places to visit, a lot more restaurants. In general, I think Brampton is a much nicer place to be in now.
So what would be some changes you would like to see for
Brampton? Quite frankly, I cannot think of any major change that I would like to see or I could anticipate taking place in Brampton. The city seems to be growing in all directions, and all of the pieces seem to be in place. The shopping areas seem to be there. The roads are being expanded and extended almost appropriately to meet the needs of the population. The communities are different, but they're still connected. The population is quite varied, the people. It seems to be just growing in the right way. Maybe I'm just looking at it through rose-colored lenses, but I'm quite pleased with the way Brampton is developing. I think people like myself who came to Canada and who like being in Canada, we accepted our new country with a little more enthusiasm than our new country embraced us. We still continue to be referred to as these people. And I've been here for the better part of my adult life, and I still feel like an immigrant because people still treat me like an immigrant. This is a true story, but my boss, I work in a hospital environment, is here for 8 years, and he feels quite comfortable. He's not an immigrant because of his skin color. But if you're here, it doesn't matter how long you're here, you're still treated like an immigrant because you're a visible minority. So every time you're a visible minority, people assume that you just came off the boat. So this is my single most important change I would like to see, a greater acceptance of people regardless of their skin color, because you might have spent all of your adult life and contributed to this society. Just because you have a different skin color doesn't mean that you just came off the boat, So if I have one regret, I think this is it. I would like to see greater acceptance of people and not assume that unless you're Anglo-Saxon, Canada does not belong to you. In fact, Canada belongs to me. I've given all of my life to this country. So this is one change I would like to see, and that change would be in the minds of people and in their attitudes, rather than government cannot legislate that, but people have to treat each other differently, that's all.
Brampton is known for its diversity in population, so what do you think environment like this will do for a change in mentality? For example, there are so many South Asians, Caribbeans, Asians, East Asians living in Brampton. So if one is surrounded by that all the time, do you think that will affect their mentality in perceiving what a Canadian should look like?
This, man, this change will come with time. It's always a gradual thing. At first, there will be a certain stigma associated to that type of community. They say, well, they'll have names for it. But long term, I think it will give people a better idea of what the Canadian community is made of. The mosaic of the Canadian community will be better reflected in a community like, say, Brampton than it is elsewhere. So I think that's a good thing. Okay.
So if someone were to ask you what nationality you are, what would your answer be?
Well, I'm Canadian of Caribbean parentage. I've given all of my adult life to this country. I consider myself part of this society. So I am Canadian, and I have taken out Canadian citizenship. I did that a long time ago, so I consider myself to be fully Canadian.
Is it a conscious effort not to use the hyphenated identity?
Well, first of all, I come from a very tiny island, so the hyphenated identity probably wouldn't have any relevance as opposed to African American or some other name like that. If I said Dominican Canadian, that probably wouldn't mean too much. So basically, I'm Canadian. I was born on the island of Dominica, and I still have a connection with Dominica, but my life has been spent here. So, and I've lived my life here. I've raised my kids. They're Canadians, so I've made the transition. I've been trying to instill this in them from the time they were born, that education is the key. People who are educated tend to be less ill-informed and more tolerant of other people. They understand how the world works. So it's important that they're well educated, that they are independent financially, they treat other people with respect, and they're decent about the things that they do. So these are the basic principles that I try to instill in my family and in my children and grandchildren. I always encourage them to be that way.